Okay, this is USO Xbox 360 maintenance and repair training video number 7. The topic of this training video is how to perform the 12-volt fan mod. I will be showing you how to do this on both the classic Xbox 360 Generation 1 and also, sorry, I just said, oh man, it's so late. Alright, that's an error right there. I'm going to be showing you how to do this, or at least what to do, on the Xbox 360 Generation 1 and also on the Xbox 360 Type S or Slim. Important information to take note of. When performing this modification on the Xbox 360 Type S or Slim, which are the same, you will notice if you ever open up an Xbox 360 Type E, which is the 3rd generation Xbox 360, you will notice that it uses the exact same case fan and pretty much the exact same internal configuration as the Xbox 360 Type S or Slim. This means that performing the 12-volt fan mod on the Xbox 360 Type E is identical to performing it on the Xbox 360 Slim, or Generation 2. Now then, to perform the modification on the Xbox 360 original, first we're going to go ahead, we're actually going to start off, sorry, I just got ahead of myself, we're going to start off with answering a couple of questions. What is the 12-volt fan mod? Well, the 12-volt fan mod is when you modify the case fan of the original Xbox 360, of the Xbox 360 to use 12 volts of power to spin at its maximum capacity instead of only the 5 volts of power that it was underpowered by Microsoft to typically use. Now, the reason Microsoft did this is because originally the Xbox was the 360 was a bit loud, and people were saying, "Oh, it's loud. I don't like that it's loud. I want it to be quieter." Because reasons. And Microsoft said, sure, no problem. So they made it quieter, but in so doing it means that it's not pulling as much heat out of the system. Now, you can go ahead and keep it quiet. You can change the fan blade configuration so it'll push a little bit more air, but the thing is, unless you give it more power, it's not really going to do much more by giving it a different fan blade configuration. Okay. Now, people sell different fan blade configurated fans out there for the original 360 and for the Type S. Point of fact, they don't do much. They really don't. Because they're not using 12 volts of power. They're only using 5. Okay. Now, the 360 Type S and Type E have 12 volts of power available to them, but they have a governor on it. Just like the governor on your car keeps your car from going too fast, the governor wire on this fan keeps the fan going too fast, or getting loud, which is what too fast is. So, how do we overcome this? Well, on the original Xbox 360, the plug itself, you'll see some that are a bit different sometimes. It'll have 4 wires plugged in there on a larger plug. But the thing is that if you take notice, you'll see that there are in fact 2 wires right there in the middle part, and then I've got 2 other wires already bundled up and heat shrinked and soldered to this extra portion of speaker wire, which goes here to the DVD power supply. Now then, here's how this actually works. This plug right here, as long as you've got these wires plugged into it, will only ever deliver 5 volts of power. Now, yes, it's got a blue wire, and if you cut that blue wire, all you're going to do is kill one of your fans. Because both of these fans are simple positive, negative, on-off fans. If you supply them with too little power, they will spin slowly. If you supply them with enough power, they will spin quickly without burning out the circuit. So, that's what we're doing. This is a 12-volt fan, okay? Not a 5-volt fan. This is a 12-volt fan. You're not going to burn it out. They don't burn out by being plugged into 5 volts. What burns out is the processors by getting too hot. This right here solves many issues with the red ring of death even occurring. This is one of your preventative maintenance things. If you perform this mod, the chances of the red ring of death occurring go from a solid 80%, 80 to 90% probability down to roughly 15 to 20%. It doesn't mean that the Xbox 360 will original Generation 1 will no longer get warm. What it means is, hot. What it means is that it's pulling the heat out of the system now with enough speed and force to prevent it from overheating during gameplay. Okay? This means that when you turn it off, it's not going to have as much heat on the inside. Okay? Now, it's also a good idea, if you can afford it, to go ahead and get a external case fan that will plug into the back of the Generation 1 Xbox 360s. My favorite one to use is this right here, the X-Fan 360. The reason why is it plugs into USB port instead of plugging into power port like the Nyko intercooler, which is a piece of garbage. Don't buy it. I don't care how cheap it is, don't buy it. It's going to melt the system and destroy itself. It's a waste of money and it will destroy your stuff. Don't buy it. This guy, on the other hand, which does need a power button modification to actually make it more practical, as long as the system has power plugged into it, this fan has power coursing through it and it is blowing air. It will pull air through the system and out. Now, when the system is powered down, it still supplies power to the USB ports on the Xbox 360. This is done so that if somebody has a corded Xbox 360 controller and they don't have any wireless ones, it'll still have power in that corded controller so that they can just press that button and the system will recognize it and power up. That's why the X-Fan has power to it all the time, and that's why it's a good idea. What it does is, when you power the system off, the X-Fan keeps blowing, and it keeps pulling air through the system, and it keeps pulling heat out of the system, and so it cools down the system faster. Okay? So as a result, it'll never red ring. Turn the fan on before you turn on the system. Play as long as you're going to play. When you're done playing, leave the fan on, let it run for half an hour, come back, put your hand on it. If it's still warm, leave it running, come back, put your hand on it. If it's cool, turn off the fan. And so that's how that works. With this, on the other hand, this is basically the poor man's mod. This is what you do if you can't find an X-Fan. Okay? This is the next best thing to having an X-Fan. Now then, how do you perform this mod? Too easy. You've got a couple of different ways. You've got the reversible method and the non-reversible method. This particular fan is done with the non-reversible method. What I've done is I have cut the wires that are down there in the plug, the brown and the red, pulled them out, stripped them back about 1/4 of an inch, and then twisted them together. I've then taken a portion of speaker wire with some heat shrink tube, took the speaker wire, took the heat shrink tube, threaded the heat shrink tube onto the wire, brought the wire over, which had a roughly 1/4 of an inch, or maybe it was 1/2 an inch, of bare wire to it. I then twisted those together with the twisted togetherness of these red and brown wires, twisted those together, and then took that twist and bent it over at a 90-degree angle initially, and then 180 back in on itself. Okay, so now, sorry, I'm going to use my pinky because it's towards the camera. But anyway, I took those wires, twisted them together, and then bent it over, so that now you've got your two wires hooked together like so. And then I came in with my soldering iron, add a dab of solder, bring in the heat shrink tube, hit it with a lighter for about 2 seconds, and that shrinks it down and holds it in place, and it's done. Now, do you need to use solder to do this? No. you can do this solderlessly. Okay, so that all you have to do is take your wires, twist them together, hook them together, bring that heat shrink tube in, hit it with the lighter, shrinks down, holds it in place real good. Okay, this is going nowhere ever, unless of course I cut it. Now then on your other end, you're going to have your wire be about, oh, I'd say 5 to 6 inches to give yourself some slack inside the system. On the DVD power cord side of things, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here on this so you can see it better. This is your plug for the DVD drive. Okay, it is identical on both ends. In other words, this is exactly how the end looks that plugs into the motherboard. And let me go ahead and bring that up for you. So you've got side by side, you've got teeth on top, you've got fins on the sides, and then you've got round and back on the exact same sides, 2 empty holes. Okay? So, Mr. Man, what does this mean? Which wire do I choose? Because there are so very many lovely wires here to choose from. Well, here's how you're going to find that wire that you're after. You're going to look at it. Okay? So, let's say for the sake of argument right now, you're holding this in your hands. My hands are not your hands, even though my hands look terrible. Let's say you have this in your hands, you're looking at it dead on, and you see, okay, I've got my 2 teeth up top, I turn it around, and I've got my 2 empty spots here with my 2 teeth up top, which means I come over this side, and then down, and bada bang. There's the wire. And as you can see, I'm going to zoom out now. As you can see, there's the wire right there. And I'm wearing a terrible shirt for this. I should not have worn black. I apologize. But anyway, so yes, there's your wire. It is referred to as the bottom right wire because your 2 teeth up top are your top, and it's on the bottom on the right. Okay? Even though as you watch this, it's probably your left. But what do you know? I mean, you know, whatever. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound insulting right there. It's really late right now, and I'm running on nothing but coffee. Probably should have done this earlier, but whatever. So it's Friday night, and I've got nothing better to do, so I'm doing this. Anyway, so yeah, bottom right wire. What you're gonna do here is you're gonna go ahead and take it out. You're gonna cut it. Okay. You're gonna strip it back about 1/4 inch. You're going to bring in your speaker wire, you're going to take your heat shrink tube, you're going to thread it on, and if you don't have heat shrink tube you can still use electrical tape, but if you're going to go the electrical tape route, you must solder it together, because electrical tape does not have the necessary properties to bind this thing together and just squeeze it in place like a fist. You know, because that's basically what the heat shrink tube does. It's like clenching it in a fist the entire time. That's pretty much how much force and pressure it's exerting, because it goes from being a soft, malleable, sort of rubberized plastic, like this right here. It goes from being this to being this. Okay, this hardened plastic that holds things in place really well. But anyway, so if you go the heat shrink tube method, you'll thread your tube on first. Don't forget that. Otherwise you're going to have to cut this, and that's no fun. But anyway, you thread your heat shrink tube on first. You cut your wire, your power wire here from your DVD drive. Strip it back, twist it together a little bit, take your speaker wire, bring it in, line it up next to it, like so that they're like this. Okay, so you've got your 2 wires coming in, and they're side by side. You then twist them, you then twist them together and then fold them over, okay? And then once you've done that, you bring your heat shrink tube back up, hit it with a lighter for 2 seconds, boom, there it is. Now, there are a multitude of really well done classic Xbox 360 tutorials for performing the 12-volt fan mod on a Generation 1 Xbox 360. I do recommend that you go ahead and hit YouTube, hit Google, look one of those guides up, look up several of those guides, and then use those to guide yourself from there. Because the only other one of these that I have is in my my somewhat prized personal Xbox 360. This one I'm repairing for and modifying for a friend. So I'm, yeah, sorry Andrew, but I'm slightly more willing to sacrifice this one, even though it's not really a sacrifice, it's actually an improvement to keep it alive. But anyway, so there you go. If you're worried about burning out the fans, there are places online where you can buy replacement fans that are more efficient. You can also buy new DVD power cords. You can get the power cords from Secure Llama. I believe you may also be able to get the fans from Secure Llama. Go ahead and hit Google and just punch in Secure Llama. There it is. Secure Llama is a fantastic resource for spare case parts, face plates for the Generation 1 360, fans and cables, things of that nature, little minor things. Quick note, and there's going to be an entire video about this. If you mess up, and it's a minor part that you've destroyed, it's okay. It can be replaced. Like I said earlier in, I think it was the second video, plastic is replaceable, circuits are not. So, if you're going along singing a song, cleaning one of these things, and you accidentally break straight through the motherboard, it's dead, Jim. Time to get a new 360. If you are performing the fan mod and you accidentally cut through every single one of these wires and just mangle them to pieces, or mangle all this right here to pieces, rendering this fan and this DVD thing, power connector, totally unusable, there is hope. These are replaceable. Okay. Secure Llama sells higher efficiency fans, so when you perform the 12-volt fan mod on them, it's going to be howling and it's going to be pushing air like nobody's business, which is a good thing. It's going to keep the system cooler. Now then, the 360 Type S and Type E. Let's go ahead and take a look at these real quick. I'm going to treat the 360S as a proxy also for the 360 Type E. Let me go ahead and see if I can get this into better frame here for you. Alright, there we go. Okay, so this is your power cord for your fan. Okay, here's your fan, power cord for fan, and as you can see, this mod has already been done. As you can see, I've got a blue wire here that's been taped back on this particular fan. In every 360 Type S, in every 360 Type E, this blue wire is the governor wire that prevents this fan from being at 12 volts. Okay? It's a governor wire because there's a chip inside of the fan that tells it how fast or how slow to spin. As long as this wire is connected, it's talking to the motherboard, and the motherboard says, "Oh, well, spin slow." I don't like that though. I love this modification because when I got to El Paso, my mother-in-law hands me her youngest son's dead 360, which had the red dot of death on it, which means get a new 360, it's dead, Jim. I found out through a bunch of online searching what had happened. It had overheated, just like the classic red ring of death issue. Now then, to perform this mod, it is very simple. You unplug this connector from the motherboard. You then take a very careful look at it. You will see you will see black, red, yellow, and then blue right here. Blue will be plugged in here on this end. You'll see teeth right here. Blue wire. Now what you can do, there's two different methods of doing this. You can either A, come in here with some wire cutters and just cut it off right there, and then come back here where all these wires bundle together and then cut it off right there, thereby permanently removing that section of wire and permanently removing the ability to reverse this. Or if you're like me and like them to have the option, if they can plan, but would prefer to go ahead and convince them otherwise, to let them see the light, you can perform the mod to a reversible standard. Now that means that you come in here to the other side of this connector. Okay, let's try and get that to focus. Does not look like it wants to focus. Oh wait, no, almost had it. Let me pull out here. Alright, so come to this side of the connector and you've got these teeth. These teeth are actually holding on to a catch that is on the wire that keeps it inside of this connector. That's what keeps the wire from just slipping out. So what you do is you take either a very thin flathead screwdriver or a very tiny knife or a fingernail or something along those lines, and you pry it up. Okay, and once you've pried that up, you can. Oh, that's right, that's the wrong thing. But anyway, it's actually this one right here. So you pry that up, and then once you've pried it up, you can then take the wire and just slide it out nice and easy, and then you bend it back like so and tape it off. Okay? So once you've done that, you're done. The 12-volt fan mod is now complete on the 360S and Type E, and all you do from there is just boom, plug it back into the board. And now you can fire it up. Now, the difference is between performing the 12-volt fan mod on the 360 Generation 1 and the 360 Generations 2 and 3, the Type S and Type E. The difference is that on the Generation 1, yes, you're going to feel a lot more error. Yes, it's going to sound like it'll explode. But on the S and the E 360s, it's going to sound like a Cessna trying to take off. But that's a good thing. I have played Skyrim on this 360 for an entire 4-day weekend. Okay? Non-stop. Didn't even turn it off. 4-day stress test on this with the 12-volt fan mod in place. And I discovered, much to my great satisfaction, that when I was done playing, the 360 was no warmer. Like, the amount of heat that I could feel coming off of this fan was no more heat than there was coming off of my forehead. The system, after 4 days of play, was still, I'm not going to say cool to the touch, but it was still lukewarm. It was maybe 5 degrees over room temperature. And to me, that has a world of meaning, because performing this modification on this fan, on this system, means it will never overheat. Does this reduce the life of the fan is the next question. Yes, by a little bit. But fans are really cheap and really abundant for this right now. So I recommend, if you're worried about it, go ahead and as soon as you've performed this mod, which I really seriously recommend you do, once you've performed this mod, make sure that you dust it out every single week. In other words, that means take canned air, come up to all your vents and just dust it out. Too easy, right? But if you're really worried about it, hop online, hit Secure Llama, find a new fan for this. Make sure it is specifically for the 360 Type S and Type E, or 360 Slim, because the Slim and the Type E use the same fan configuration, the same case fan. But yes, just go ahead and buy a new fan. Have it sitting in reserve. So when this one does start to actually overheat, what it'll do is it'll do the I'm overheating thing and it'll just quit. It'll shut itself down. From there you can go ahead and just let it cool off, turn it off, pop it back open, replace the fan, fire it back up, and you're good to go. Anyway, that's the 12-volt fan mod. Take a look at this. Previous video that I did earlier, when I jumped the gun, I did the replacing the DVD drive video. So the next video that I'm going to be doing is the getting replacement parts video. It's going to be video number 8. So I hope that this video was informative. I hope that it was useful to you. I hope that it will be useful to you in the future. I hope that you use it as a reference material in the future. I hope that you use it as a guide as you work on your systems and as you work at repairing them and maintaining them, instead of just budgeting a bunch of money and then throwing money down a rat hole replacing them. Remember, repair before replace, and you will save so much more money. You will have so much better budgeting abilities. So then you'll have a lot more happy soldiers. Alright, well, with that in mind, have a wonderful night, and thank you for watching.